Okay, hey, welcome to This Must Be the Place. I don't say welcome, you do, right? But welcome anyway. Welcome to this week's episode of This Must Be the Place. The
Episode
podcast,
16.
Episode 16, the podcast bringing you the people, places, and properties that make the Twin Cities metro area so special. On this week's episode, we have BooMTimeS. Always. We have Neighborhood Watch, NorthLoop, Urban Edition. We have a little trivia.
And a real estate topic.
We do have a topic this week.
A shitty topic.
Oh, we'll leave that one to the imagination.
This must be the place. Yeah, this must be the place. Ain't no time to waste. Ain't no time to waste. So whether you in Minneapolis or St. Paul, Bloomington to Maple Grove, from the east side to the west side, down south to way up north, let me hear you say.
I was thinking about Coolio, R.I.P.
Yeah, R.I.P. to the Leo.
Oh, the Leo. Oh,
Yeah.
We're shortening Coolio to the Leo.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
And welcome to This Must Be the Place, the only Twin Cities real estate and real estate adjacent podcast where one of the hosts loves it when buyers bring their parents to inspections.
It's so hilarious, dude, because my client, shout out Cindy and Ryan, best clients ever, she said that her parents might be coming to the final walkthrough, and then she's like, although my dad is just, he might just have to stay in the hotel room for this one. Like, It was the acknowledgement of everything. I was like, you bring them.
Sure. For those of you unfamiliar with
My first clients brought their dad.
purchasing, I have had that happen too,
First
but
ones ever
it's
brought
kind
their
of like a underlying comedy among
Yes.
realtors that during the inspection period, especially it happens with obviously first time home buyers, they don't know. I didn't know anything when I bought my first home.
They want somebody there.
They want somebody there that they trust and that has purchased a home before,
Yeah.
so that it's logical to bring your parents.
Yeah, we're knocking
Especially your dad.
We're knocking on the drywall.
Yeah.
That's not the Chinese stuff.
I don't want to gender stereotype, but it is almost always the dad. And their comedy is that they kill deals because they are. I had one deal that blew up because of that once years ago, and it was each buyer brought their dad. So there was two dads there.
Sweet.
And I think
double dad.
Yeah, I think the last sentence I remember from the showing is I could overhear the dad talking to my buyer, their son. I wouldn't touch this effing house with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
Which is good. I mean, you don't want to.
You're paying what for this? Yeah. I got my first house for $5,000, and it was made of old growth lumber
in 1984.
Yeah. That's all right, man. And then afterwards, after it's all said and done, they go, but if you see any other properties, let me know, because I might be actually looking for a deal.
Oh, dads, we love them.
We all have them.
I
mean, right? That's a statistical fact. I mean, they
may not have
be
them
fathers,
currently. Yeah.
But we all have to.
As Paul Westerberg once so eloquently put, he may be a father, but he sure ain't a dad. Topic.
Are we jumping into the topic?
The shitty topic.
Okay, we can bore people right off the bat.
I think it's very interesting.
Look, if you skip forward about 10 minutes, 12 if Andy gets going, then
it's on the table.
Then you'll be right where you need to be for the enjoyable stuff.
So, real estate topic du jour. We're going to be talking about sewers, sewer lines. You know, an under-discussed, unglorious part of a real estate.
I like how you did that, right? Under-discussed because it's disgusting. Unglorious because it has to do with the
all right.
Glory.
Before we
all right,
jump the shark on that, but it's a very important part of real estate transactions. So when you buy a single family home, obviously condos and townhomes have sewer lines too, but very often that can get involved in HOAs being in charge of certain things and whatever. But traditionally, a single family home has a sewer line. Now, that is not traditionally everyone. I mean, this isn't Little House on the Prairie.
Unless you're on a lake and it's a septic system. But if you're if you're in the Twin Cities Metro and you're tied into city services, city water and sewer.
I guess I'm thinking, you're right.
Yep.
Septic systems as you get more rural.
Yep.
But that's a topic for another day. But so the sewer system is basically the main, many call it the main waste pipe.
Yeah, sure. Main line.
Yep. Sewage.
Yep.
You know, this stuff when you go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Yep.
You flush it, where does it go? Yep. Well, turns out you've got this big, traditionally cast iron, I think, right? Pipe.
Clay tile as well. Now
PVC.
Yep.
That goes down through the basement of your house.
Yep.
And is basically a lateral pipe that goes out to where the city's main pipe is.
Yep.
Right?
Generally the street.
Yes. Usually, so right under your house is from there to the street is anywhere from 30 to 100 feet.
And your responsibility as a homeowner. Yes.
No matter where you live.
Yep.
That if the sewer pipe is on your land, it's your responsibility.
Yep.
So what happens over time is a lot of homes in Minneapolis and St. Paul and even inner ring surrounding suburbs, homes are old, man. Homes are 150, 180, 70, 60, 50 years old. And these sewer lines, like we said, Casey said, clay tile, cast iron, and now they're making them with PVC. But, you know, any home built that long ago in the Twin Cities or even Bloomington and Edina, these are older sewer lines. And what happens is they get old and they break.
Yep.
And it's a matter of time.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. Eventually, it's going to happen to everyone.
Yep.
Now, when that happens, it can be crazy expensive. And it's on you as the homeowner to replace it.
Yeah.
And they have to get a backhoe in the front yard and they got to dig up the grass.
Yep. I went through this personally.
You did? I can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah.
I actually remember you saying this.
Yeah.
So it's why it's before I get to your story, because I remember it's a cool story. Shitty story.
Cool as
it's not. I mean, it's not a great.
Cool for realtors.
Yes.
Or people going through it.
So, as whether you are selling a home or buying a home, as an agent, I always recommend if you're selling a home, if I'm representing the seller, before you put it on the market,
pre-inspect.
Get your sewer line. It's just have somebody call Ron the sewer rat or somebody.
Don't call Ron the sewer rat.
Well, they'll at least put a camera down there.
Okay.
But
I got a guy.
You got a guy you're talking about replacement.
Email. No, I got a guy. I got a guy for
Casey's
scoping and everything.
Although
Ron, great guy. Thanks, Ron. Sorry. Didn't mean to rain on your sewer.
Besmirch the reputation. But, you know, for $200, they'll come out and they'll run a camera all the way the 50 feet, 60 feet, 70 feet from your basement. It's a sewer clean out, essentially. It's like a capped part of your sewer line that's accessible from the inside of your house. They'll pop that open, and then they'll run a camera all the way to the street, and then it'll show what kind of shape the sewer line's in. And it's, in my opinion, as a seller, you're going to have to deal with it eventually. After the buyer purchases the home, they're going to get it inspected. So you might as well get ahead of the game and know what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, the main questions that I get asked, are age of the roof,
mechanicals, the furnace,
water intrusion, and sewer. Right? Those are the questions.
So those are costly things.
So if you can get ahead of that and by pre-inspecting and lay it out there, then you know. Now, granted, you can take the risk and not want to know about it, and then you don't have to disclose, right? Ignorance is bliss when it comes to real estate.
Because the law is, in Minnesota at least, if you know it, you have to disclose it.
And I will say that there is some gray area, right? If you've never had a sewer backup, if you've never had any issues whatsoever, and that's in your disclosures. I lived in this house for 25 years, and I've never once had any sort of water in my basement from a sewer backup. you're probably fine. If you routinely get your main line cleaned out once every year or two with a 4-inch blade, you're probably fine, right?
Tree roots.
Yep.
They grow on them.
Yeah. So in my house personally, when we purchased the house, nobody had lived there for 20 years.
Your current house?
My current house. And it was disgusting. So I walked into it and I was like, this is the grossest house I have ever seen in my life. I called my wife and I was like, baby, we got to put an offer on this thing. Because that's where my brain goes. Like, we've been through renovations. The bones were good. The room sizes were great.
Yeah,
right?
you're probably like, we're
disgusting.
getting a 25% discount or whatever.
The only new part of that house was the basement. And it was not well done. And you could see where the water was on some of the baseboards, and you knew that there were issues, right?
It wasn't a flip, though.
It was not a flip, just
Okay.
a couple.
Just a half-ass job in the
basement. A couple that
basement.
they bought a house in Beverly Hills, lived there for 20-some years. They let their kids squat in the house through
90210?
college.
Is that the area code?
Yeah.
Zip code.
And I'm sure that they had water backups and were like, we got to make this thing look at least presentable in the basement. So they laid some crap carpet down, some terrible trim, and called it a day. But it continued to be a problem. We renovated mostly the entire house except for the basement. We put some new carpet down and painted. And every once in a while we'd be running, the dishwasher or the garbage disposal or whatever, and I'd go downstairs in the unfinished part of the basement, and we got 2 inches of standing water, and it's disgusting. And I have my St. Paul plumbing restoration on speed dial, of course, always on a Sunday, and they would come and do a good job. It'd go down, and we should be good. 6 months later, same thing. 6 months later, same thing. 6 months later, same thing. It got to the point where we had to put a plug in the clean out that sealed tightly with an Allen wrench so you could seal it down so it wouldn't come up through the carpet in the finished part of the basement anymore. It would just make it go to the back unfinished part if it happened, because we were ripping up carpet and running fans under carpet to avoid issues. Long story short, we're going out of town to Florida to visit family. And in the middle of the winter in February, and it happens again. And my guys couldn't get there. So I called the guy who could come from like an hour or two away. He was like, yeah, I'll come. I'll make it happen. I'll clean out the line for you so at least you're good while you're out of town.
Yeah.
He gets his blade broken off and stuck in the main line. So now I got 15 feet of a clean out, a 4-inch blade stuck in my main sewer line, and we're leaving town literally in 24 hours. Lots of calls happen. We wind up linking up with a guy who comes in with his team in less than 24 hours, gets a backhoe in the yard, digs 10 feet down, exposes the clay tile, because our clay tile was offset. So what happens with the clay tile is they connect in these little runs.
Yeah.
They were offset from each other.
Yeah.
And either cement or mortar or paint or food over the years had dried and created just enough kink to block stuff up and not let it flow freely, which would cause backups into the house. So this guy gets his backhoe, digs down, replaces a 10-foot swath, cuts out the clay tile, and luckily, in our instance, I'll tell you guys what it cost. It cost $9,000. Luckily, that's because...
Just for 10 feet?
Well, here's what they could do, and this guy was great, and no other people told me this, and I'll link his company's name in... I wish I could remember it right now, but I'll link his company's name in the description for this episode. He was able to take PVC pipe...
Yeah.
And sledgehammer it through, and then bond it and sledgehammer it through the full 50-foot run to the street. And they had a camera. So instead of doing a street hookup, which if they have to dig up the street and connect it to the city's main sewer, you're looking at another $10,000. Because you got to break city pavement, you got to break asphalt, you got to dig down, you got to put the things in that hold it from collapsing on your head. He brought it to within a quarter of an inch of the city hookup. So it was 40 some feet of new PVC and exactly like a quarter of an eighth of an inch with a camera to the city hookup, filled it back in, stomped it down, was in and out within 8 hours, him and his team.
Give that man a raise.
And
Holy
in St.
cow.
Paul, you can put that on your tax assessments.
Right.
And spread it out over 20 years at 2.9%. So
I remember you telling me about that thing that St. Paul offers, and I thought it was such a great idea. I emailed my city council person,
okay.
and I was like, is there a version of this available in Minneapolis? If not, can we make it happen
Yeah.
for residents?
Yeah. I mean, if you're in Minneapolis and you've sat through that story, write your local congressional leader, make it happen, because it saved us. Not only did it save us an enormous headache, but it saved us. I mean, I can't just plop $9,000 on something within 24 hours. Most people can't, you know what I mean? So
Sure.
So it wound up being not quite as big of a headache as it could have been, because I was lucky to have the right people. And again, I will link them, but and we haven't had a backup since. It's been 2 years now, and it's been great. So having been through it personally, whenever I
that was
see
2 years ago.
offset clay tiles or anything else, I am a little leery, because I've been through what that means.
For sure, man. And that's just an evidence of something that you don't see and will never appreciate about your house that is vitally important.
Yeah.
And something you just want to make sure. And then on the other side, if you're a buyer, as part of your inspection, we have great inspectors that we can refer to buyers.
Yep.
They can add on services, like they can add on a sewer scope.
Yeah.
So you can know what you're walking into.
Yeah.
They can add on a radon test, so you know what you're walking into.
Yep.
Radon Man.
Yeah.
Remember
Radon
that?
Man,
Call
Radon
back.
City.
You can add a chimney, you can add all these things.
Pip.
What?
Pip.
Pip.
Chimney sweep.
Pip.
But that's
Pip,
part. I think
Pennyweather.
that's part of what we do as realtors. Part of our job is to point out things like the sewer line, and that's been replaced. The insulation, right? The fact that there's not galvanized to copper. It's either PEX or copper at this point. Like all the
That's what
things
we're
that
looking
as a
at.
homeowner, you're like, that's not sexy. We don't care. It's brown cabinetry, and we hate that.
Yeah.
It's luxury vinyl tile that's square from 2016.
Yeah.
We want engineered hardwood.
Yeah.
Like those are all things that can be changed easily. The mechanics, the bones, the subsurface things of your
Yes.
home, the insulation behind the walls. Those are things that cost a lot when you have to get into replacing, and if they're done well, you can take your time with the cosmetics to make your home what you want, rather than get into some of those more invasive fixes that you just don't know about.
For sure.
So
Exactly right. Before we get out of here on the real estate topic du jour, sewer lines.
yeah,
I did a little bit of digging around.
Big brain Andy time.
And do you know what happens when you flush your toilet?
the water flows.
Where when you
Clockwise?
flush your toilet? I believe clockwise in
in the
the
northern
northern
hemisphere?
hemisphere. I don't know, but where does it go?
Down.
You know,
Goes down.
It goes down.
Goes down, out.
Let's say you're in Minneapolis or St. Paul. Do you know the process of getting to where it goes?
It dumps right into the Mississippi.
It does
and-
not. However, there's two.
No, I've seen. Trust me. After my
rainwater
son was in
runoff.
the bathroom one time, I
Yeah.
was on a run. I went for a run.
Yeah,
He flushed it, and I ran down to the Mississippi.
it came out there.
Right out. Same color and everything.
So it actually ends up in the Metropolitan Wastewater Treatment Plant in St. Paul.
You don't say.
I do say.
You don't say.
So it goes out to the main water line under the street in front of your house. It finds its way through verticality and gravity down all the way to the Metropolitan Wastewater Treatment Plant in St. Paul. Now,
You're really stringing this out.
the wastewater passes through a large iron grate
I
to
like this.
separate large
This
items.
is the science part of Andy.
Yes.
This is big brain Andy. I like this.
And you're gonna have to use your imagination with some of the words I'm gonna say. Solids
Okay. Yeah.
are then settled out, collected, and incinerated. Solids. bacteria is used to remove organic materials and nutrients before the bacteria is settled back out.
What's that process called?
Bacterionation is what I have.
Okay.
Phosphorus and nitrogen are removed, and chlorine is added.
Okay.
And then it is released into the Mississippi River.
Ah.
And now, This Must Be the Place presents Neighborhood Watch.
No, NorthLoop, man.
Let's do NorthLoop.
Let's NOLO. You've heard of Hoboken?
Hobo?
You've heard of
NOLA, New Orleans.
Yeah. I was gonna go like what's the other one in Brooklyn? Dumbo.
Oh, Tribeca?
We have NOLO.
We have NOLO. NorthLoop.
Yeah.
Where's NorthLoop? Do you know?
It is north of the loop. It's north of Hennepin or First Avenue, and it is on the east side of the downtown Minneapolis area. So right from Hennepin north along Washington.
Yep.
You take that north to about
And then a little west
Plymouth,
of Washington,
I think
too.
Plymouth
Avenue, yeah.
So from the river to, let's just say, 3rd Street. I'm going to go 3rd or 4th Street north, or 1st Street.
Doesn't really matter. It's in the northwest-ish corner of...
Northeast. Of the downtown section of Minneapolis.
Yeah. And...
Right on the river.
Yes. Right next to the river, right across from Northeast Minneapolis.
Yes. Yeah, or Nicollet Island.
And right across from Nicollet Island as well. Yep.
Cool neighborhood, man.
So cool. The history of NorthLoop is crazy. It's all about railroad tracks and trolleys.
Yes.
That's it.
Yep.
And that basically...
Lots of warehouses.
Lots of warehouses. So you've heard the warehouse district and you've heard NorthLoop. They're not interchangeable, but they kind of are.
They border. They blend into each other.
Yeah, they blend into each other. The warehouse district is
it's a little closer
historic.
To the
has a historic designation. They're used interchangeably, and they pretty much can be used interchangeably.
Yeah.
But what I have found about the NorthLoop, the term loop originated in 1891. Because of these trolley cars were doing a loop up and down Washington Avenue. Okay. And the name stuck, right?
So the loop originated for North Loop in that, not like as a word. We didn't come up with the word loop because of trolley cars. Loop has been a word for much longer than that.
Yeah. That is not.
Just here it originated, yeah.
That's exactly right, yes. But this was right around like... early 19th century, probably mid 19th century. And then there was a lot going on, bubbling up slowly throughout the 19th century. And then by the late 19th century, this part of Minneapolis was
exploded.
Where it's at, man.
Yeah. Really, the last 20 years, 15, 20 years, it's just gone through the roof.
Yes. And the most iconic thing you think of when you think of NorthLoop, at least in my mind, are the buildings and the architecture, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot going on now with restaurants and shops and boutiques and stores and everything that make it is what it is today. But the structural basis of the neighborhood are all these old buildings. So we had the Cremette factory. Yep. We had... Ford was pumping out Model Ts in the NorthLoop.
There's some paper company over there as well.
Paper, lumber, all these things.
Lots of warehouses for...
and these were all being built between 1890 and 1920, which super happenstance, coincidentally, this was what's called the golden age of American architecture. So like even they were making industrial buildings into higher forms of art. Sure. And that just...
You can see that in the brickwork and some of the detail that's on all those buildings.
Super detailed, yeah. And that is why the architecture of the NorthLoop is what it is. It's all about timing. Like if it had happened 30 years ago, it would have been a lot different and a lot less unique.
That's what makes the inside of those buildings so desirable to convert into lofts or studios, or because you have these huge 14, 20-foot high ceilings with exposed brick that you can't pay to age as well as it's aged, with the different paint and the stuff that's broken and the stuff that like all comes together to create this aesthetic on the inside of a lot of those condos that people pay a ton of money to try to recreate. You get that all naturally in damn near every one of those buildings. And as a destination for young professionals, people that work, before COVID, right, that work downtown, that were part of this urban core, this revitalization of the urban core of Minneapolis, to live in that area, to be able to walk to work or Uber to work and have the Mississippi and green space right there, but also have nightlife and restaurants and everything right at your fingertips, right in that within walking distance, really all combined to create a boom for that area that still continues, with now building 20-some plus story buildings every once in a while over there.
Yeah, and what I also found interesting is, much like around, locally and also around the country, is unfortunately after the Great Depression, that mixed with white flight in the 50s, like all of these buildings were run down. Like nobody lived there.
Well,
I mean, everybody moved, the businesses pulled up, moved away.
You think about what was there, right? Like before the revitalization effort, that was on the edge of the warehouse district, where you went to Deja Vu or Sex World or like any of the sort of like seedier
Augie's.
sort of, right? Like that's not quite the NorthLoop.
No, but it's close. It's a block
that
away,
was,
2 blocks away.
And there
I
were
don't know
more.
where Augie's is, that's for sure.
There was more over there, right? And now it's weird because that's both of those establishments are still there, but they're right across the street from the Hewing Hotel, which is the most boutique of awesome boutique hotels with, Nordic plunge baths and sauna experiences on the roof. And
now there's a Four Seasons right there too.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool how those two histories and two like seemingly opposed worlds can coexist and collide to create just a really cool cultural experience over there.
Super well put. Yeah. That's very true. And the revitalization project that took place, I actually have located and found what's called the Minneapolis Warehouse District Designation Study, which is a 187-page document that was put out in 2009.
Wow.
I read through 3/4 of this yesterday, 187 pages. And
you read 100 pages yesterday.
Yeah.
You must have been
light
on work.
I had light on work. Not a lot going on.
Is it double spaced? I mean, you're going to write a master's dissertation on this?
No, it's single spaced, brother.
This guy dove in.
But it's, if you ever want to kill some time, go find this document because it's so cool.
We'll link the PDF.
It talks about how amazing, and it gets into granular detail about the history of NorthLoop, why it's architecturally unique. The Hewitts are an architectural builder. Cass Gilbert is probably the most famous. Everybody's probably heard of Cass Gilbert, but Cass Gilbert was the architect that designed the Minnesota State Capitol. And just all these famous...
Cass Gilbert designed that incredible home in Tangletown in St. Paul behind McAllister College that I talked about way a long time ago when we did that little neighborhood with the turret and the carriage house. It's my favorite home in the entire
just east of Fairview.
Groveland. Yeah, it's
like northeast of Fairview and St. Clair, right?
Yeah, it's 2 blocks. It's like Goodrich and something Wheeler. I mean, probably not, but it's around that. But yeah, that was the architect, and he's done a lot of cool stuff. It's a great.
I'm
it's
getting
a great
sucked
neighborhood.
back into this 187 page
document.
document.
I mean, that doesn't make for a good podcast when you just
when I'm
stare
reading.
When you're reading,
of course not.
But what's also it's not interesting about the NorthLoop, but the the living there, the residences there, there's no single family homes, right? It's either condos or it's townhomes. Townhome communities are situated right along Mississippi River Road, River Boulevard, whatever they call it in Minneapolis there. Just north of Hennepin, there's this community there. And they're gorgeous townhomes, and a bunch of them overlook the river. And
you know
there's
what?
a nice little playground there.
When I think about what you're talking about, I always think of the Cosby Show.
Yeah,
those brownstones that the Cosby. I don't know. The Cosby Show was like.
So there's some brownstones, but right across from them, they're the white stucco ones.
Yeah.
That are like 3 stories high and 2,000 plus square feet with decks.
Yeah.
And,
Okay, maybe I'm thinking of something else.
Yeah. There are NorthLoop
brownstones. For
there
sure.
are some NorthLoop brownstones. Yeah, if you go back towards the river, you're going to get more of those townhome type things. And if you're more towards Washington, you're going to get the condos or now some high rises.
Yeah.
But like the 4 or 5 story old warehouse, reclaimed warehouses.
More like 3-story for a lot of them, right?
Yeah. Right above Parlor or Bar La Grassa or
on Washington, right? Or if you go more towards the river, you've got
big creative community over there too. It's something that you don't necessarily think of because there are these warehouses and you're like, that's a warehouse. I don't know what's in there. You go inside some of these warehouses, you have like Pixel Farm, which is a huge creative company. You have music houses that handle licensing. You have advertising agencies. You have all these cool creative spaces that work with content creation for multinational brands and Fortune 500 companies housed within those warehouses, right alongside, the condos themselves, which go for an average of like $410,000, which is above the average for single family home sales.
Yeah, and these are like 2-bed, 1-bath.
Yeah, and price per square footage
1,100
is
square feet.
Yeah, price per square foot is somewhere around
$330.
$340 a square foot.
$340 a square foot.
And the Twin Cities average is $198. So you are $150 above the average price per square foot because people pay to live there.
Same goes for rentals, man.
Yeah.
Like if you want an apartment in NorthLoop, like at a new luxury apartment place, I mean, even a small one, you're paying $2,000 a month.
I mean, we had considered it before kids. We had considered it. And we were like, how are we going to make this work? We can put up walls and like get a home workspace or whatever. I mean, it's just a really cool area if you like eating out and being like right in it, but not like the right in it like downtown where it's like
so different than downtown,
like
man.
a bunch of
And you NorthLoop heads know, obviously.
Yeah. Very different vibe.
When you walk around, the vibe is it's green and it's homey and it's
Did you
friendly.
see the new park they just put off of the elevated? There's
on the river?
No, it's it's right off the highway. It's like right in the middle of the 2 highways that are feeders to get down there. They put this super cool park, like green space park.
Interesting.
With the elevated highways above it on either side.
Yes.
I forget what it's
on
called.
the other side of Washington.
Yeah.
Yes.
West of Washington.
West of Washington, yeah.
Yeah, where closer to where that new high rise is going up. Yeah, in the Twin Stadium area.
Yes.
Because technically, I guess, right, like
Target Field is NorthLoop.
NorthLoop. Yeah.
It is. It's the far end of NorthLoop.
Light rail access, like everything's there, man. It's like everything you want. I do want to say, like, and I'm sure you'll get into it too, just because we shout out restaurants all the time. I do want to shout out a couple places. Black Sheep Pizza, coal-fired pizza. It is still my favorite slice of cheese pizza in the city. They closed the one in St. Paul. They closed the one on Nicollet. That's the only one that's left. It's the original. Hopefully it's not going anywhere.
I hope not.
And just cheese pizza. It's got this sweet sauce. It's got the right crisp. It's got the right fold. I mean, everything is good there, but it's just like...
And the crust with the coal.
I love it, yes.
It's really good.
Snack Bar is an amazing place.
Going away.
Is it? Is that what they're turning into Borough?
That's what no. They're turning Snack Bar into St. Pierre's Steak and Seafood, which is the new Birch.
Okay.
Same people, Isaac Becker and Nancy St.
Better
Pierre.
have pizza and dumplings.
It will.
or he'll be banned again.
Oh, yeah. You're okay. Isaac Becker, Nancy St. Pierre.
Don't mess it up.
You're unbanned currently.
That can change.
Yeah, it can change.
I am.
But it's turning into St. Pierre Steak and Seafood, which sounds bougier than I think it's going to be.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a lot like Birch, where they're going to have, I
hope you're
believe,
right.
pizza and dumplings.
I hope you're right.
Yes.
Because Snack Bar's pizza is insanely good.
I've never had it.
They call. I don't know if they call it like. I'm not going to butcher it, but it's a spicy sauce with like chilies and meat. You can choose regular sauce or like this spicy meat chili sauce and Calabrian chilies, and it's just man, it's very, very good. And then another shout out to Martin Patrick. It is a men's clothier and
Clothier.
Yes.
Isn't he that tall Irishman who sings sad songs?
I don't know, but they sell art.
Hosier.
That's Hosier.
Hosier.
Yeah, take me to church. This is not that place. Hosier probably would shop there because it is a men's clothing store that sells cologne and watches and haberdasheries and furniture and art. And it's really cool. It is really friggin' expensive.
Oh, the next word's out of my mouth.
Socks is like $100 from that place. So if you're one of those, if you're one of those guys who, has disposable income and a high-paying job and lives in the North Loop and doesn't have any kids and can afford to look like, dress like a European, that's the place to go. If you're a Minnesota schlub like me,
and
who,
although
says
I'm wearing fancy pants
a good
today.
pair of Old Navy jeans will do, maybe not the store for you. But my wife got me a Christmas present one year, or like the family got together and got me a Christmas present, and I was kind of like, I can't.
Was it like a gift card to there? Or
Yeah, it was like a gift card.
Okay.
It was like a 30th. It was like my 30th, right? So I was still young enough to care about how I looked.
Yeah.
And
those were the days.
Yeah, and we didn't have kids, so it was a decent. She got me like a $900 gift credit to there.
Yeah.
And I was like, I refuse.
It's like 4 pairs of socks.
I refuse to buy 4 pairs of socks and some sweatpants. So we bought art. I bought a painting that's still hanging in our house. That's awesome. But it's a really cool store. And what's happened around that store, because it was such a hub and such a high-end place to be, that now you have like the pacifier and a wedding shop, an incredible lighting store,
Lululemon.
Lululemon. You have all of these things that have sort of grown up in the area around that, and a coffee shop called
Fragment. No, Fragment's across Washington.
No, wasn't it? It used to be like Moose and Sadie's.
Yeah, Moose and Sadie's are closed.
Yep. So, but now it's called Fairgrounds Craft Coffee and Tea.
Yeah.
So, but Moose and Sadie's was another, like, that was a staple in that neighborhood.
Sure
That's
was.
the reason you went there when nothing else was there.
That's right.
And now everything's there.
That's right.
Including West Elm and all the stuff you get out in Edina. I mean, it really has turned into one of the places to be in the city.
No doubt.
So.
And before we TLDR North Loop, I want to talk about some cool places in North Loop too. So
Spoon and Stable?
Spoon and Stable.
Stable, yes.
It's
incredible.
I'm sure it's not there anymore, but it's my wife, shout out Sarah's, favorite beet salad she's ever had in her entire life.
Okay.
Target Field is there if you want to catch a Twins game at the border. Breweries galore. Acme Comedy Club.
Yes.
I took my buddy BTC to go see Stavros Halkias there.
He sounds funny.
2 years ago.
His name sounds funny.
He's Greek. He's hilarious. You've got Aria in North Loop, which is, I went to a wedding there once. It's gothic and it's beautiful, and it's the most amazing event space I've ever been to in my whole life.
Wasn't it Theater de la Jeune Lune?
I don't know what it was.
Well, I think it was Theater of the New Moon, and now it's Aria, or maybe it's a combined.
Got
It's
it.
a cool theater there. I want to add one to your list here.
Please.
Bunkers.
Oh, yeah.
Because
I'm talking about Bunkers.
Oh, it's an OG.
Yeah.
It's like,
On
that was the
Washington.
cap of like, don't go past Bunkers because that's where civilization ends.
Yes.
And now it's right in the middle of all the stuff. And that's where funk still lives in Minneapolis.
Dr. Mamo's Combo.
Yes.
Every Sunday night, I talked about Julius Collins before. In 1982, he was playing with Dr. Mambo's Combo on a Sunday night at Bunkers. Prince came on stage and he sang Thank You by Sly Stone with Prince on stage at Bunkers in 1982.
Yeah, absolutely. Could see it all day, every day. I could see it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that.
Yeah, if you haven't been to Bunkers and you're into the Minneapolis sound. Go see the combo.
Yeah.
They're great, man. They're great.
For sure. That's about all. I've got a bunch of other stuff to talk about in terms of like things to do in NorthLoop, but you all know it.
No.
Everybody knows NorthLoop.
It's great. It's a great area of the city.
So TLDR, NorthLoop starts with railroads, starts with trolleys, starts with businesses, Cremet, Ford, Mars, the character, the buildings between 1890 and 1920, the architecture, the warehouses, now the shops and the restaurants and the best restaurants in the Twin Cities.
Yeah.
And culturally super cool, wide mix of ages, and pretty expensive.
Pretty expensive, but you're paying for instant access to awesome.
NorthLoop Trivia.
Let's do some NorthLoop trivia, because I've got some NorthLoop trivia for you very briefly. And now, Casey attempts to answer 5 NorthLoop trivia questions.
Oh, is it just 5?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Do I have to say what is or anything? Is this Jeopardy?
No. Question the first.
Question the first.
What candy bar? Did you already read this?
Mars, dude. You just said it.
May I finish?
All right, my bad.
What candy bar was born in the NorthLoop in 1923 when Frank Mars and his son Forrest Mars, is a name, came up with an idea to create a candy bar that tasted like a malted milkshake? What candy
Milky
bar?
Way.
Milky Way. Boom.
Yeah.
Very good. 1 for 1, sir.
That's good. That was easy.
Question 2.
I don't think it tastes like a malted milkshake though.
No, they're gross.
Yeah. They need something.
Milky Ways are gross.
Yeah.
Malted milkshakes are fine.
Yeah.
What was the population of NorthLoop
Ooh.
in 1980?
The North Loop in 1980.
How many people lived there in 1980?
Lived in a major metro area in what we're calling the North Loop. 1,273.
338.
Holy shnikes.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see it. They weren't reclaimed as condos yet. It was all run down. There were businesses, but no.
Yes.
So when were those townhomes on the river built?
According to...
I mean, that's probably where they were living. Maybe.
Yeah.
300 single family home type.
Yeah,
thing.
because all of those warehouses were empty.
Yeah.
They were empty.
Yeah. Crazy.
What is the current population of NorthLoop?
We're going from 300 to
338
Minneapolis population.
as of 2020.
We're going to go roughly 400,000 people in Minneapolis.
430, something
430?
like that. Yeah.
I'm going with 13,462.
7,540.
Way over. That's
Yes.
still 300 to 7,000. That's a lot.
So each decade via census, from 80 to 90, the population went up almost 100%.
We're closer, I think, now to my number.
Yes.
I mean, not that much closer, but we're closer to it than we were in 2020.
But every decade, we're increasing between 75% and 183%. Every decade.
And we're halfway through the decade. So, okay, so 7, add 3 to that. So we're probably around 10,000 people there now.
You're pretty close.
Yeah.
Okay. Question number 4.
Okay.
What is the total area in square miles of NorthLoop?
Oh my God. In square miles? 1 square mile.
Oh.
0.76 square miles.
0.837.
Oh,
very
0.76,
good.
yeah.
That was very good.
Yeah. I had to have the map in my head.
What are question 5?
Yes.
What 2 Minneapolis City Council wards are represented in NorthLoop?
Oh my God.
I would have known this, but I live in Minneapolis.
The 5th and the 6th.
The 5th and the 3rd.
Oh.
Very good. Very good. And this has been NorthLoop Trivia featuring Casey.
Yeah. That's good, man.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I got close on a lot of them.
Yeah, you did good.
Yeah. So do you wanna get into some boom times and get out of here? We'll do Minnesota market in some other time.
Yeah, sounds good.
I have one boom times.
How does the boom times thing go?
Welcome to Boom Times, a segment called Boom Times, Boom Times.
Boom Times. Welcome to Boom Times.
You gonna explain it again? We're on
well, I
episode
have to
16.
because you can't just call it Boom Times for somebody's first
Books. Only often movies. Television. Nope. Essentially television. Intermittently movies.
Music.
Music.
Extraordinarily sports.
Extravagant sports. Only extravagant sports.
What do you got to talk about today, Casey?
An
Boom
extravagant
Times.
sport. Ice dancing.
That is an extra. What dressage? Do you know what dressage is?
That has to do with like the horse prancer.
Yes, horse
It's a
prancing.
prancer.
That's right. Mitt Romney, I believe, famously
Of course.
was into dressage.
Of course, Mitt is a horse prancer.
And he doesn't call sports, he calls it sport.
Sport.
Yes, famously.
I like that sport of a game.
Yes.
The Tyler, the Creator concert last night. Went there with my wife, bought tickets for my kids and I. And it was amazing. It was at Excel. And aside from the openers, Paris, Texas, which musically I'm okay with Paris, Texas.
Never
and
heard
Lil
of
Yachty, who Lil Yachty is just, in my personal opinion, is trash. But my kids were like, yeah, you hate on everybody. And I'm like, no, objectively, he is a trash performer. And I was like, Miles, watch the
Probably a
difference
good
between
person.
how he performs and how Tyler performs. Right? Like, it's just night and day.
You're talking about like artistry, just
Yeah, the
performance.
Performance, right?
Yeah.
Pure performance. I mean,
Yeah.
from getting up on a stage and basically like every song is a feature from him. So like he's just listening to other rappers rap and like screaming at the top of his lungs and then like dancing and like off rhythm. He's sort of rhythmically challenged a little bit. So like all of his like, and the beat's about to drop, but like he does this like a
I don't know
split second
any-
before the beat drops.
I couldn't tell you.
So everybody
You
is
could play
like,
me a Lil Yachty song, I wouldn't know who it was.
he has that one that's like cold like Minnesota, cold like, or like
Don't know it.
what about broccoli, Dram and him
Chopping broccoli?
we are no.
No, I've listened to him before, but I don't.
Rolling up
Anyway,
my
Tyler,
broccoli.
the Creator.
Anyways, Tyler
That's
the
what you wanna talk
Creator Chromacopia album.
Yes.
Fantastic
You
show,
like it.
man. I mean, it again, is it Igor or some of the ones that won album of the year and were widely considered his best work critically? No, but I think it's a great freaking album. And so he started the show, it was all green lit, shipping containers up, and he's like incredibly animated, has like this Phantom of the Opera mask on and like sort of like what's the black dude who's like super well respected academic who runs for presidents every once in a while?
Kanye West?
No. Cornell West. You got like the Cornell West hair, but like it was like amazing from a visual standpoint. Green suit, constant movement, just big and no band, so it's just him controlling the stage and working it with like passable Michael Jackson like dance vibes across the stage from 100 feet this way to 100 feet that way, and then walks across a bridge to get down to this sort of more living room type set in the middle of the X, where he, costume changed into more Tyler type gear, khaki pants, button up shirt, hat.
Sure.
And he did a cool thing where when he went through his back catalog, he had lots of cameras, right, on huge displays all over the place. And one of those cameras focused on a record collection. So he would sift through this record collection, some of which were his records. And so he would go and he'd be like, and you could see he'd pull out the Igor record and the crowd would go crazy because that meant he was going to do songs from that album.
Sure.
He'd pull that out, put it on the record player, start it, and then dance around this intimate living room or sit or whatever and do classic material from every one of his records.
Love it.
For at least half
even
the
back
set.
to like Goblin, like
Yes.
way back, like Odd Future stuff.
Exactly, yes, all of it, right? And then put that back on, went across the walking sort of path, 40 feet above the crowd with
Yeah.
lights everywhere, back to the Chromacopia stuff where he finished out with the biggest song off that record.
That's awesome.
And he didn't do an encore. At least we didn't stay for it because it was right at 11, and it was the first stop. St. Paul was the first stop on his tour. But I will say the dude's funny, man. At one point, he
been funny.
He said something about he called the crowd Milwaukee, and
no.
and everybody was confused.
Yeah.
For a second.
Yeah.
But then they cheered anyway, and he was like, "What are you doing, dumbasses?" Like, he knew that we weren't Milwaukee. He called it St. Paul. He said Minnesota. He didn't say Minneapolis.
Yeah.
But like, he just like tests in a very dry, witty kind of way, and then it's like, you're not. His point was, you're not Milwaukee. Why are you cheering for me calling you Milwaukee? Why wouldn't you be like, we're not Milwaukee?
He's a famous chop buster.
Yeah.
He likes to bust some chops.
Yeah.
He's funny.
And it was a great show. It was a great show.
I love that the Odd Future guys and girls, actually, because it's a big collective from back in the day, are super talented and now like famous.
Yeah.
Like Earl Sweatshirt, Tyler the Creator,
Yep.
Frank Ocean.
I was waiting for Frank to come out.
Oh,
I know it'll never happen in St. Paul, Minnesota.
No.
But if he had come out and they had done like biking or something, I would have lost it.
like I think Frank Ocean 50 years from now will be considered like one of the talents of his
Between
time.
Tyler and Frank Ocean, those are two of my daughter's favorite artists.
Yeah. Anyway, so mad props to Odd Future and Tyler the Creator.
Yeah.
That's great.
Good show.
What do I have to talk about? I had something. I wanted to talk about the Grammys for a minute.
Great
but
performances.
My daughter and I watched it. Violet loves the Grammys now, so we watch every year. I look forward to it. The performances were great.
Did you see Ray at the end of the Best New Artist segment? So it was like Teddy Swims.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Shaboozey.
I don't know who Ray is, but I saw her.
But you saw the performances though, like with the Teddy Swims and all the Best New Artists who were up there.
No, I must have missed that part. I floated in and out.
The Beautiful Things guy who does the backflip off the piano when he sings the Beautiful Things.
I don't know what that is.
Anyways, that was the best performances of the night. But this woman, Ray, and I was hoping you saw this.
No.
British soul singer. And it yet again proves that point that I made earlier, that current soul is run by Brits, because she was so ridiculously good. It was unbelievable. So if you're out there and you love soul and great performances, go watch Ray's performance.
RAYE, right?
Yes, from the Grammys this year, because it's
I loved
incredible.
Chapel Rowan was great.
She was great. She was great.
The performances were great.
Yeah.
Doechii was amazing.
Yes.
Charlie XCX was
Doechii
amazing.
was in
at the
that
end.
same new artist performance slot. So she's the one that stood out.
I watched it afterwards. That's why.
Okay.
Because I floated in and out for a minute. There were certain acts I wanted
Tyler
to see.
had Doechii last night, but it was on the screen. So he did his Doechii song, and she was on the huge screens.
Cool. That's cool.
I would imagine it being in LA or somewhere where she would show up live would be pretty incredible.
And the only other thing I wanted to talk about, because I had a lot of fun with it. It was great. And then the Grammys Grammy and go off about some fuck shit. And there's this thing that is now 3 years running that I didn't see coming, but it came again.
Okay.
The Grammy Global Impact Award.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Grammy's gonna Grammy. They named it after Dr. Dre.
Yeah.
What kind of Dr. Dre?
Yeah.
His whole problematic history has just been. They don't
look, man. They don't. Hollywood is Hollywood. One thing that I can agree with a lot of people, I don't agree with a lot of stuff on, is that Hollywood has a very selective memory for where they choose to apply their outrage.
Yeah.
So
like Dr. Dre is a bad person.
Something happens in 10 years and we're all like, gonna have to rename that award. Should have seen that coming. It'd be like the Diddy Impoverished Woman Award.
Like, speaking of Kanye West, he would be a better choice to be called the Grammy Global Impact Award. And then they give it to Alicia Keys. What are we? This is all performative.
Sure.
What are we doing?
Sure, but that's literally what the Grammys are.
I know, but
performance.
But it's with the subtext of criticism, and it's not. It's just performances.
Yeah.
And Alicia Keys is fine at best.
Yeah, I mean, She's fine. She's a great piano player. She was cool at the time. It's like
She's fine.
She's a pretty average singer.
Yeah. Nobody's
flat.
like, oh, put on this Alicia Keys album.
Yeah.
No, nobody does that.
No. I mean, there are a couple songs that are classics. I Ain't Got You.
Fine.
Classic record.
Fine.
I mean, you're more of an indie rock guy and not a soul guy, though.
Not true. I was just talking about Frank Ocean. Not that he's all soul, but
No,
he's got it.
no, I agree. I agree with your take. I'll leave it at
My
that.
last boom times before we get out of here is the NBA, man. NBA trades. I love it. The Luka trade.
Oh
Are you
my
kidding me?
God.
I was going to bed Saturday night in bed, just flipping on Blue Sky, scrolling through Blue Sky, and I was like, what?
Yeah. Insanity.
I just love it. It's
Insanity.
great. It's the takes.
Yeah.
Luka Doncic got traded for
Yeah.
Anthony Davis,
Yeah.
and
Talking about Lonzo Ball possibly to the Wolves, which would be amazing for the Wolves.
oh man,
You may not.
no,
like
I love Lonzo Ball, but I mean, he's
a point guard.
heartbeat away from breaking his leg.
He's a point guard, man. A true point guard. And they need some of that.
We do.
Yep.
Dillingham
Yep.
shows flashes.
Sixers got rid of
Collins old.
Caleb Martin,
They did.
and I'm all for it. You want to know why?
Why?
Because if we clear enough space and even get rid of Paul.
Paul George?
Yeah. And we find a way.
Oh God.
To-
What are you about to say? Get Giannis?
No. We find a way to sign Yabusele long term.
Oh.
Because I would rather have Yabusele playing stretch 5 and start at power forward along Joel Embiid than either of those guys. Since he has been, it's hard to pay attention to the Sixers, but the last 2 weeks the Sixers have been playing their best ball. Maxi's been averaging like 36. He had
Embiid had a
13 assists
triple-double
last
the other
night,
day?
and Yabusele had a 28-point game. Last night it was 19, 8, and 7. He's been everything we could have hoped for and more. And by getting rid of Caleb Martin, we're saying hopefully we're saying we want you to be our guy here. We want to spend the 20, 30 million on you if they can. And so I'm
Yeah.
happy about that.
Yeah.
We'll see how they screw it up because they screw up everything. But it's been a crazy
Drafted
trade
Jared
deadline so
McCain.
far.
Drafted Tyrese
He's
Maxey. They
incredible.
don't screw up
They're both
everything.
incredible. They're both incredible. I'm happy that they're moving
Meanwhile,
towards
my
the-
team lost at home to the Wizards the other night.
Yeah.
I mean, our whole team was hurt. but
And the
still.
Wizards practiced. Some of them practiced. Kispert and Jordan Poole and some of those guys had De La Salle.
Oh,
and so
did
a
they?
bunch of my son's friends who were on the varsity team got to meet those guys and ask questions and take pictures. It was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Kyle Kuzma got traded today. Did you see
Yeah,
that?
I did see
For
that.
Chris Middleton.
Yeah. It's a dirty business, man.
It is. And I
Loyalty
love the
means nothing.
NBA. I love the drama.
Yeah.
It's great.
Hey, real estate and the NBA.
This is where you
Dirty,
get it.
dirty business.
See you next week.
This must be the place. Yeah, this must be the place. Ain't no time to waste. Ain't no time to waste. So whether you in Minneapolis or St. Paul, Bloomington to Maple Grove, from the east side to the west side, down south to way up north, let me hear you say, this must be the place. Yeah, this must be the place.